The first call came in just after sunrise. A night manager at a boutique hotel in Manhattan stood behind the marble reception desk, staring at a glowing computer screen. The reservation system had just flagged a guest account for review. Normally that wouldn't mean much. But this one carried a balance that had grown from a few $100s to nearly $22,000. And the guest tied to that balance had already checked out. Her name was Anna Sorokin. At first glance, nothing about her stay had seemed unusual. The staff remembered her clearly: elegant clothes, quiet confidence, a soft European accent. She carried herself like someone used to luxury. When she arrived 2 weeks earlier, she had introduced herself casually. "Anna Delvey," she said, sliding a sleek black passport across the counter. "I'm here for a few nights." The passport listed Germany as her residence. Her Instagram told a bigger story. Scrolling through her account felt like flipping through the diary of a young billionaire. Private jets. Champagne glasses beside infinity pools. Art gallery openings in Paris. Designer bags arranged on marble tables. Every photo radiated effortless wealth. And more importantly, every caption suggested something else: powerful connections. Within days of arriving in New York, Anna had begun moving through the city's most exclusive spaces. Rooftop lounges overlooking Central Park. Members-only clubs where investors whispered about startups and million-dollar deals. People noticed her. More importantly, people believed her. Anna told everyone the same story. She was a German heiress. Her family owned a vast financial empire overseas. Trust funds. Property. Investments scattered across Europe. Money that would soon arrive in New York. She spoke about it casually, as if enormous wealth was simply a fact of life. And in a city built on ambition and image, no one questioned it. One evening, she sat at a long candlelit table in Soho surrounded by venture capitalists and art consultants. "I'm opening a private arts foundation," she explained smoothly. "A cultural space for elite members. Exhibitions, events, a new kind of club." People leaned forward. New York loved big ideas, especially when they came wrapped in money. Anna described the project like it already existed. A 6-story building filled with galleries, restaurants, and private lounges for the world's most powerful creatives. It sounded extravagant, but it also sounded believable. Because Anna looked like someone who could afford it. Over the next few weeks, her presence became impossible to ignore. She appeared at fashion shows beside socialites. Shared champagne with influencers in penthouse suites. Checked into luxury hotels without hesitation. Everywhere she went, the same pattern followed. Anna would promise payment later. "Wire transfer tomorrow," she'd say with a polite smile. Or sometimes, "My bank in Europe is finalizing it." The delays always sounded temporary. The confidence in her voice made them feel harmless. But behind the scenes, something else was happening. Banks had begun receiving loan requests tied to her foundation project. Documents arrived describing millions of dollars held in European accounts. Statements showing immense personal wealth. At first glance, the paperwork looked legitimate. But one financial analyst reviewing the documents noticed something strange. The fonts on the statements didn't match the bank's official templates. A number sequence appeared duplicated across multiple pages. Subtle details, but enough to raise suspicion. Meanwhile, Anna continued living exactly the way her Instagram suggested she should. 5-star restaurants, private chauffeurs, weekend getaways with wealthy acquaintances who believed they were traveling with a future billionaire. One trip in particular stood out. Anna convinced several friends to fly with her to Morocco for a luxury retreat. A desert resort famous for its infinity pools and golden sunsets. The group expected a lavish escape funded by their wealthy host. Instead, by the third day, hotel managers were quietly asking about unpaid bills. Anna insisted the transfer was coming. Always tomorrow. Always delayed by some technical issue overseas. The balance grew larger. Tension crept in. And when the trip finally ended, one of her friends discovered something shocking. Anna hadn't paid for anything. Not the hotel. Not the flights. Not the spa treatments. Someone else had unknowingly covered the entire bill. Back in New York, whispers started spreading through the same elite circles that had welcomed her. Who exactly was Anna Delvey? Some began searching deeper. The internet offered plenty of photos, but almost no verifiable history. No family empire. No financial records. Just the carefully curated digital life she had built. By the time hotel accountants started comparing notes across multiple luxury properties, the unpaid balances had reached staggering numbers. Thousands here. Tens of thousands there. And yet Anna continued moving confidently through Manhattan as if nothing was wrong. Then investigators discovered something that turned curiosity into alarm. The financial documents she had used to secure loans and luxury accommodations had been digitally altered. Forged bank statements, fake asset reports, an entire financial identity constructed from carefully edited files. Suddenly the elegant heiress everyone had admired looked less like a billionaire, and more like the center of an elaborate fraud. But the most unsettling discovery came when detectives reviewed Anna's social media timeline. Her posts weren't just showing luxury. They were strategically timed. Every photo, every glamorous location, uploaded precisely when she needed people to believe she had money. The illusion had been engineered. And by the time investigators realized how deep the deception went, Anna Delvey had already begun planning something even bigger. Because hidden inside her laptop was a proposal for a $40 million investment deal. And if it succeeded, the lie wouldn't just fool socialites. It would fool the entire financial system. But when detectives opened the final folder on her computer, they found something that made the case far more dangerous than simple fraud. The folder investigators opened that night was labeled simply, ADF, Expansion. At first glance, it looked like the natural next step for someone building a luxury arts foundation. Architectural renderings, financial projections, membership tiers priced at tens of thousands of dollars per year. But the deeper detectives looked, the stranger it became. Because buried beneath the glossy presentations and polished investment summaries were dozens of files that didn't belong to a legitimate business plan. There were email drafts addressed to bankers who had never agreed to finance the project. Contracts already signed with digital signatures that appeared suspiciously identical. Even stranger were the bank verification letters. Documents supposedly sent from major European institutions confirming Anna's immense personal wealth. Except investigators quickly realized something critical. Those letters had never been sent by the banks. Someone had created them manually. And the person who had sent them was Anna Sorokin herself. Detective Rachel Morris sat quietly in the dim glow of the Financial Crimes Office, scrolling through the files line by line. She had spent 15 years investigating fraud cases across New York. Most scams followed predictable patterns: fake businesses, stolen identities, desperate criminals hoping to disappear before anyone noticed. This case felt different. Anna hadn't been hiding. She had been living loudly. Photographs showed her stepping out of black SUVs, walking confidently into exclusive hotels, sitting beside wealthy entrepreneurs at private dinners. It wasn't the behavior of someone trying to stay invisible. It was the behavior of someone who wanted to be seen. Rachel leaned back in her chair and studied the timeline. For nearly 2 years, Anna had been slowly constructing the illusion. It started with social media. Her Instagram account looked like a travel magazine curated by someone with unlimited money. Monaco, Ibiza, Paris Fashion Week, Manhattan penthouses with sweeping skyline views. But detectives now understood something the public didn't. Most of those locations weren't owned by Anna. They were borrowed moments. A dinner invitation here. A hotel lobby photo there. Carefully framed images that suggested a lifestyle she didn't actually possess. Each post helped reinforce the lie. And the lie opened doors. Soon she wasn't just attending elite events. She was networking inside them. At a gallery opening in Chelsea, she had introduced herself to a venture capitalist who specialized in cultural investments. Anna Delvey, she said confidently. I'm building something extraordinary. That conversation would later become one of the most important moments in the case. Because Anna didn't just describe her foundation idea. She sold it. A private arts club in Manhattan where wealthy members could mingle with world-famous artists. Exclusive exhibitions. Private performances. Michelin-level dining reserved for a small group of influential members. The proposal sounded brilliant. And investors loved brilliant ideas. Within weeks, Anna had scheduled meetings with financial institutions that normally wouldn't even return calls from unknown entrepreneurs. But she wasn't unknown anymore. Her reputation had grown through carefully engineered encounters. Luxury hotels believed she was wealthy because other luxury hotels believed it first. Socialites assumed she had money because she was constantly surrounded by people who already had it. It was a psychological domino effect. And Anna understood it perfectly. Detective Morris continued reviewing the laptop files. A spreadsheet revealed exactly how much money had been quietly floating through Anna's life. Unpaid hotel suites totaling over $200,000. Private jet deposits that were never completed. International trips where friends unknowingly covered thousands of dollars in expenses. But the most dangerous part of the scheme wasn't the unpaid bills. It was the loans. Anna had been applying for tens of millions of dollars to fund her so-called arts foundation. To support those applications, she had submitted the forged financial documents investigators were now examining. If the bank had approved the loan, the consequences would have been catastrophic. Rachel tapped the desk thoughtfully. Did she actually get the money? Another detective asked from across the room. Rachel shook her head. Not yet. The word hung in the air. Not yet. Because according to the emails in Anna's laptop, she had come dangerously close. One major financial institution had nearly approved a $22 million credit line. The only thing that stopped it was a routine verification call to a European bank. And that call had revealed something shocking. The account Anna claimed to own didn't exist. Once that discovery reached investigators, the entire illusion began collapsing faster than anyone expected. Hotels started comparing notes. Former friends came forward with stories about suspicious payment delays. Business partners realized the investment meetings they attended had been built on fabricated wealth. Suddenly, the woman who had dazzled Manhattan's elite looked very different. She wasn't a mysterious heiress. She was a fraud operating in plain sight. And once the authorities realized how much money had been involved, the investigation moved quickly. Detectives began tracking Anna's movements across the city. Surveillance cameras captured her walking through hotel lobbies, dining in restaurants, attending events where she continued behaving exactly as she always had. No panic. No signs of someone worried about being caught. If anything, she seemed calmer than ever, which made investigators even more uneasy. Because people who know they're about to be arrested usually show some sign of fear. Anna didn't. 3 weeks into the investigation, detectives finally obtained a warrant to search her current hotel room. It was a sleek suite overlooking downtown Manhattan. The kind of place someone wealthy might stay while waiting for a penthouse apartment to be finalized. 2 officers knocked. No answer. They knocked again. Still nothing. Finally, the hotel manager opened the door with a master key. The room looked untouched. Designer clothing folded neatly on the bed. Luxury shopping bags stacked beside the wall. Her laptop charger plugged into the desk. But Anna herself was gone. Detective Morris walked slowly across the room, scanning every detail. Then she noticed something sitting on the desk. A single envelope. Inside it was a printed document investigators had never seen before. It wasn't another fake bank statement. It wasn't a loan application. It was a plane ticket. One way. Leaving the United States that night. And the destination printed at the bottom made the room fall silent. Because if Anna boarded that flight, she would disappear into a country where American authorities had almost no chance of bringing her back. The airport was buzzing that night, a blur of travelers rushing to gates, security lines stretching endlessly, announcements echoing overhead. Few noticed her slipping through the crowd, the woman who had fooled Manhattan's elite, the socialites, the bankers, and the media alike. She moved deliberately, almost elegantly, with a small leather carry-on that had traveled the world more than most people's entire lives. Anna Sorokin had done it before, created illusions, but this time she was vanishing entirely. Detective Rachel Morris stared at the surveillance feed from the airport security cameras. Anna's face was unmistakable, refined, poised, a hint of amusement in her eyes, but the woman in the footage was already gone by the time officers arrived. The chase had begun. Back in Manhattan, the city that had once bowed to her charm now felt like a trap. Hotel staff, bankers, and former acquaintances scrambled to piece together the timeline. Payments that had once been promised were never made, accounts left in ruin, investments nearly finalized, all abandoned in an instant. And yet, Anna left no obvious trail, no digital breadcrumbs significant enough to predict her exact location. She had mastered the art of leaving just enough evidence to intrigue, but not enough to trap. News outlets picked up the story quickly. Headlines blared, "Heiress or imposter? Manhattan's mystery woman vanishes." Social media exploded with speculation. Some called her a genius, others a criminal mastermind. But the reality was far more dangerous. She was still capable of causing chaos, and no one knew where she would strike next. Weeks passed. Investigators traced flights, hotels, and rental cars. Financial records indicated Anna had been funding her movements with stolen credit lines and unpaid debts. In Paris, she had booked a boutique hotel using a forged letter from a German bank. In Rome, she dined at Michelin-starred restaurants, leaving unpaid bills stacked neatly on the table, as if daring the world to follow her. She was not hiding, she was performing, a criminal actress in a global theater. Meanwhile, Detective Morris and her team analyzed every shred of digital evidence. Anna's emails revealed meticulous planning. Every post, every social interaction, every financial document had been orchestrated to sustain an illusion that could never be verified easily. Yet, what truly unnerved the team was a single document buried deep within her laptop, a hand-drawn map of European cities with notes, dates, and mysterious initials. It wasn't just a travel itinerary, it was a blueprint for her next moves, one step ahead of authorities. But the biggest shock came when investigators finally identified her accomplice, or at least the person who had facilitated some of her most daring moves. A mid-level banker in Luxembourg had unknowingly processed transfers tied to fake accounts. Emails suggested he had been flattered by Anna's charm, convinced he was dealing with legitimate business. The betrayal wasn't just financial, it was emotional manipulation. Anna had created trust, and trust had been weaponized. By the end of the month, the trail went cold. Authorities monitored airports, train stations, and luxury hotels, but Anna's disappearance was total. Every digital footprint she left was deliberately misleading. Payments, flight reservations, and social media posts had been decoys. Even friends who had helped her in good faith were left questioning what they had seen. It wasn't until months later, during a quiet review of old files, that a new lead emerged. A social media account, newly created but suspiciously consistent with Anna's style, began posting snapshots of luxury hotels and extravagant meals, but this time in Asia. The captions, though cryptic, carried a familiar air of arrogance. She was taunting the world. She was still free. She was still invisible and untouchable. The investigation became one of the most complicated white-collar criminal pursuits in recent history. Authorities realized they weren't just chasing stolen funds, they were chasing a persona, a human illusion engineered with such precision that it blurred the line between reality and performance. Every interaction she had had, every account she had opened, every investment she nearly finalized, it was all part of a meticulously constructed narrative that left a trail of chaos behind it. But then came the final, haunting revelation. In reviewing her hotel records from Manhattan, one officer noticed a subtle pattern. Anna had been leaving hidden messages inside her receipts, digital metadata on images, and even annotations in booking forms. They weren't threats. Not exactly. They were proofs of skill, a message to anyone who might try to stop her. She had designed her fraud as if it were a game of chess, each move calculated to protect herself while mesmerizing everyone else. By the time the investigation concluded, Anna Delvey had vanished entirely from the United States. She left behind unpaid bills totaling hundreds of thousands, loan applications worth millions, and a social circle shocked into disbelief. And while the courts could eventually convict her for the fraud she had committed within their reach, the true scope of her ambition, her ability to manipulate, charm, and disappear, remained an enigma. In the end, it wasn't just about stolen money. It was about control, perception, and the power of an illusion. Anna Sorokin had proven that in a world obsessed with image, someone who understands how to exploit it can walk through life like a shadow, untouchable and unforgettable. And though the court sentenced her for the crime she could be tied to, the question lingered in every investigator's mind: how many more Anna Delveys were out there living double lives, creating entire worlds on Instagram while the truth waited quietly beneath the surface? They thought the case was closed. They thought the criminal was behind bars. But Anna had already disappeared, leaving behind only one certainty. In the game of deception, the boldest players always find a way to vanish. If you think this story was intense, you're not ready for the next one. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it, because the world of high-stakes fraud is darker and stranger than you've ever imagined.